The following program is the work of broadcast students from the British Columbia Institute of Technology. BCIT Magazine features news stories from around the Lower Mainland which were produced over the past week. Responsibility for the content of the show rests completely with the students and their instructors.
On BCIT Magazine, Emily Carr University gets a new home. An airport security training exercise goes wrong. And Bollywood stars will walk the red carpet in Vancouver. Hello and welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Francesca Fionda.
And I'm Lynn Johnson. Students and staff at Emily Carr University are getting a big funding boost. They'll be moving from their home of 30 years on Granville Island to a new spot on Great Northern Way.
And as Ish Sharma found out, some students are hoping the extra money will keep funding their unique projects.
A big day for Emily Carr University of Art and Design as Premier Christy Clark announced more funding for a new campus on Great Northern Way in Vancouver.
We are investing $113 million in this new state-of-the-art visual media and design facility for Emily Carr University of Art and Design.
Emily Carr Chancellor Jake Kerr addressed the overcrowding problem at the current facility on Granville Island.
Our space constraints force us to turn down over 50% of all qualified undergraduate candidates. So a new campus here at Great Northern Way will allow us to accommodate our current population and to grow in the future.
Bobby Lynn Kyle, a fourth-year Emily Carr student, developed an app for lupus and feels that the new initiative brings amazing opportunities.
So it'd be nice to see a bigger intake and allowing more students to have the opportunity to learn design and the arts.
The total cost of the project will be $134 million and it's expected to be completed by July 2016. Ish Sharma in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
The City of Surrey will not be building a $100 million casino project. As Roop Dosanjh discovered, some people are still surprised by the final vote against the proposal.
This rural South Surrey neighbourhood was supposed to be the venue for a new complex. But after a lengthy council meeting, plans for the casino have been put to a stop. One Surrey City councillor is speaking out against the decision to end the plans.
Gaming is a legitimate business in this country. So as a local official, I have to decide, given that it's legitimate, where in the city do I think it should best be located?
The plan included a 200-room hotel, a 60,000 square foot casino, and a 27,000 square foot entertainment and convention center.
We fought hard, let me tell you, we fought hard for many of those things on that site and what we wanted.
One local resident was one of many who were vocal about keeping gaming out of their community.
I was actually glad to hear that the casino proposal was rejected by Surrey. As a homeowner, I think our property value will be affected by it. I'm really glad about the decision.
The proposed location for the entertainment complex is an 18-acre site located between 10th and 12th on 168th Street in South Surrey. Mayor Diane Watts voted against the casino, ultimately being the deciding vote. In a statement, she said she was surprised by the overwhelming opposition, but had to listen to the people of the community. Roop Dosanjh in Surrey for BCIT Magazine.
And now to tell us more about the casino controversy is Roop Dosanjh. Roop, what can you tell us about the future plans for the empty lot?
Well, Francesca, Councillor Linda Hepner said the land will be used for something, but the exact plans have not been laid out. She hopes the city will get some kind of project happening soon. However, the infrastructure is expensive to develop as it's been sitting there for 10 years. As I mentioned in my story, although the property is in a very remote area of South Surrey, it would be ideal for some kind of large-scale development. Hepner is pessimistic anything will be developed there in the near future, but says further attempts to have a casino will be dissolved. Back to you.
Thanks, Roop. A training exercise gone wrong. Transit police using dogs to sniff out explosives forgot a bomb on a plane. As Nigel Haynes reports, officials are now trying to figure out how the package was able to fly all the way across Canada.
During a canine training exercise at Vancouver International Airport, BC Transit police officers forgot a bomb on a plane. That plane then flew all the way to Toronto. While it was checked over 14 times by Air Canada, the bomb was never found. Jordan Bateman of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation says that's inexcusable.
My jaw hit the floor. I mean, a stunning dereliction of duty here, leaving an explosive on a passenger airplane and not noticing it was missing for 2 days.
Transit police say the officer responsible has since resigned, and they're hopeful it won't shake public confidence.
Yes, I would hope that there would be no loss of confidence. This is the error of one officer. It wasn't a situation, fortunately, where anybody was actually put at risk, but it's something that should never have happened, and we've taken steps to ensure that it won't happen again.
Transit police also say the bomb could not have exploded, but travelers at YVR are not impressed.
Completely unacceptable. Like, it shouldn't happen ever. There's no excuse, really. Shouldn't be.
The police have a response, particularly, they knew they were carrying explosives, literally. And when I'm flying internationally, I worry enough about terrorists. I don't want to have to worry about our own police officers making major errors like that.
Okay. Well, obviously, somebody wasn't paying attention. Now, hopefully they were smart enough to not leave an arm bomb on a plane, but yeah, no, that of course it shouldn't happen.
Meanwhile, transit police say training procedures have since been changed and passenger jets are no longer used for such exercises. Nigel Haynes in Richmond for BCIT Magazine.
There may be a solution to stop more ice bombs from forming on the new Port Mann bridge cables. Last month, falling chunks of ice cost millions of dollars in damage to cars on the bridge deck below. Nicole Lobo took a look at the technology that could save your windshield.
Engineers working on the Port Mann project have identified solutions to prevent snow and ice buildup on the Port Mann bridge cables.
After 4 weeks and extensive evaluation, we've identified the solutions we're planning to implement on the Port Mann bridge. There will be a series of cable sweepers. They'll be pulled along the length of the cables, and scrapers and brushes will remove snow and ice buildup before it can accumulate.
Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure Mary Polak reassured taxpayers that they won't be footing the bill.
I said from the beginning, taxpayers will not be on the hook for this. Kiewit has been nothing but collaborative and cooperative with us, and I have no reason to believe that will change.
The sweepers will be installed on all 152 cables crossing the roadway. Nicole Lobo in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
Coming up next on BCIT Magazine, a hoarder is in hospital after being trapped in his home for days. And smokers in public spaces are being asked to butt out.
They say if you want a wish to come true, never tell anyone. But there is one wish that can make the difference between life and death. And this wish can only come true if you tell someone. Please, let your family know you want to be an organ donor.
Standby graphics, ready, camera one.
If you want to experience the fast-paced world of news,
today on BCIT Magazine, striking,
make magic on a movie set,
frame,
and action, or bring your creative ideas to life, BCIT's hands-on training will get you started. BCIT Television and Video Production. Your possibilities start here.
Welcome back. Another study has named Vancouver one of the most expensive cities to live in, second only to Hong Kong. The annual survey by Demographia looked at real estate affordability in 337 cities around the world, including 35 in Canada. One real estate expert says a rise in immigration and the city's desirability factor into those high prices.
People who come from other parts of the world recognize how great this place is, and so they have influenced the prices, and they recognize how desirable it is, and it's time for locals to realize that they do live in paradise.
And while the situation in Vancouver actually improved slightly from last year, the study still found our city had a grossly overvalued market. The stage is set for Vancouver to host the glamorous stars of Bollywood. The Times of India Film Awards will hold their glitzy festivities here in April. The province is investing $11 million in the three-day event. And as my co-anchor Lynn Johnson found out, the province hopes the investment also brings in more trade and tourism.
The announcement was a crowded event featuring Bollywood dancers. Clark says the awards are part of strengthening BC's economic ties with India.
This event is just part of what's going to inject millions into our economy as a result of our relationship with the Times of India Media Group.
She says hosting the awards here is an opportunity for Vancouver to reach 90 million viewers in India.
And that kind of exposure can garner tremendous opportunities for people in our province.
While Clark celebrated the awards, she was challenged to answer how this might benefit BC's struggling film industry.
Part of the deal that we've signed on this, at least one Bollywood production will be coming to British Columbia and using BC suppliers.
Some of Bollywood's biggest stars showed their support for holding the awards in Vancouver.
I just want to say that I take a lot of pride in standing here today, representing, I think, one of the fastest growing film industries in the world.
I felt so proud that we're coming in April here to represent the film fraternity, the film industry, to all of you.
The stars will walk the red carpet on April 6th. Lynn Johnson in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine. A Burnaby man is recovering in hospital after being trapped for 3 days under piles of his own belongings. As my co-anchor Francesca Flanjack discovered, the city is trying to figure out how to deal with the mounting problem of hoarding.
This home is filled with so much clutter it took investigators 3 hours to rescue a man trapped inside. Fire crews had to hack through mountains of clutter. He was taken to hospital semi-conscious and suffering from dehydration. While this case is unique, RCMP say dealing with hoarders is not.
Although the public thinks it's a rare occurrence, because the police are going into people's homes virtually every day, we do see a lot of hoarding at varying degrees.
Dan Lang with the City of Burnaby says they're looking at creating a plan to deal with hoarders based on other municipalities.
We are looking at the Vancouver example and seeing if that would be something that Burnaby would look at and implement in going forward. It's not something we run across every day, but we are finding more often that we are running across these sorts of properties.
We've got to organize all of this.
Susan Borax and Heather Niddle deal with clutter every day. They're professional organizers and say any action plan needs to consider the mental and emotional aspects of the issue.
Well, anybody who has a hoarding problem, you have to go incredibly slow with them because often they have a lot of attachment to their stuff, right? And I mean, we've had one client who held our brochure for 6 years before she called us. So you can see how hard it is for them to actually get to a point where they're admitting, I have a problem and I need help.
Mental illness is one of those things that people tend to keep at arm's length due to social stigma attached to it. That includes family members as well as friends. We need people to take a more active role in monitoring these individuals so that they can be aware if something is untoward at any given time.
As the owner of this home recovers in hospital, city officials say they'll work with him to create a safer place to live. But eventually, the City of Burnaby hopes to have a long-term plan to deal with hoarders. Francesca Flanjack in Burnaby for BCIT Magazine. And it looks like it was just an empty threat from NHL fans to stage their own lockout. Our reporter Nicole Lobo found out people are spending again as the sounds of hockey return.
It's only been 1 week into the shortened season, and local businesses near Rogers Arena are already noticing some major changes.
People have just been like swarming in before and after the games. I mean, the level of drunken customers has definitely risen. It's been a madhouse, just preparing for those nights. Just like the whole thing's been full of pizza, so it's been crazy. People are just happy there's hockey. They just got sick of watching football, I guess, and now they're like, oh my God, hockey.
You can't wear that.
Other local retailers aren't so optimistic, believing it ultimately cuts into their bottom line.
People have mixed feelings about hockey still, and
the big sales that the Canucks had for the 3 home games made a big difference on all the retailers' bottom end. We lost about 60% of our business through the lockout and through Christmas.
Reaction from Vancouver fans is still mixed when asked about the repercussions of the lockout.
There won't be any repercussions in Canada, but there sure as hell will be in Phoenix and wherever.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
I don't know. I don't think that deep. I'm just glad to be here supporting my team and loving my team. I'm just proud to be here. That's all I care about. Listen, this is all what it's about right here.
Casual fans are the ones that are staying away. The hardcore will go and they'll wear their jersey, wear their hat, but it's those new fans you got to catch and build your fan base on, and those are the fans that said, okay, well, I can't go to a game in October, November, December, I'll just do something else.
But despite the lockout, it looks like hockey is still alive and well. Nicole Lobo in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
Public spaces where smokers can light up could disappear. That's if the Canadian Cancer Society has its way. My co-anchor Francesca Fionda visited one of the largest cigar shops in Canada. They say the tobacco industry is being unfairly targeted.
In Vancouver, places like this are smoke-free, but the same is not true across the province. Now the Canadian Cancer Society is asking for a ban on all public spaces across BC.
There's no safe level of exposure to secondhand smoke, and that's why we're calling on the BC government and all political parties to prohibit smoking on the outdoor patios of bars and restaurants, and on parks and in playgrounds and on beaches.
A short drive away from the Canadian Cancer Society in Vancouver is one of the largest cigar shops in the country.
It's the most popular selling cigar in the world.
Cigar merchant Peter Goldie says the dangers of secondhand smoke are often exaggerated.
I understand completely the idea of not allowing smoking inside of confined areas, like a bar, a restaurant. But however, there's a lot more of a gray area within smoking outdoors, where there's a lot more airflow. So that makes it much more difficult to just say that concretely that smoking outside is going to 100% cause health concerns with secondhand smoke.
Goldie says there are already a number of restrictions, including on labels and advertising. In Vancouver, smoking is already not allowed inside, and Goldie says a ban on all public spaces would unfairly target casual smokers.
Banning public smoking altogether, casual smokers would probably find it not worth their effort to actually buy the tobacco and smoke it. So there would be a percentage of our customers who would stop smoking and stop frequenting our store. So we would lose business in that sense.
While the cigar shop is counting their customers, the Canadian Cancer Society is counting a different number.
And it isn't until a person is more than 7 meters away from someone who's smoking that there are no longer those effects of secondhand smoke. Smoking is still responsible for 30% of cancer deaths.
So far, the Society says the government has told them it's not ready to tell people what to do. But until the ban is in place, the Society says they'll keep pushing for a smoke-free province. Francesca Fionda in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine. Coming up next on BCIT Magazine, we check out a book from the Human Library, and a Vancouver artist uses an unusual canvas.
This is me. And my mom and dad. And my big brother Alex. And Jack. This is the day I learned that sandals got their name from sand. That jellyfish aren't made of jelly. That stars don't just come from the sky. That the ocean is bigger than all of us. This is the day we all got to forget I was sick. This was my wish.
From atop Burnaby Mountain, I'm Camille McDonald with your community calendar. Get up out of the fog and over to Grouse Mountain for Snowshoe Grind social nights every Wednesday this winter. After taking in the slopes, head to Altitude's Bistro for food and drink specials, giveaways, and DJs. Speaking of drinks, why not try some chocolate cocktails on Granville Island? This event on January 31st will be chock full of some of the best chocolate around. It's part of the Dine Out Vancouver Festival, where local restaurants are offering scrumptious 3-course meals for special prices, only until February 3rd. But if a beach escape is more your style, head over to Richmond. Not to the airport, but the indoor beach. Six Pack Indoor Beach is holding its annual Kids Movie Night on February 10th. So if you're a kid at heart, take in some classic Disney movies in the sand for free. That was your BCIT Magazine Community Calendar. I'm Camille McDonald.
The Push Performing Arts Festival is back in Vancouver for its 10th year. New for 2013 is the Human Library, where visitors can check out a person and hear their life story straight from the source. Joining us now is Camille Flanjack, one of those human books. Thanks for being here, Camille. It's great to have you in.
Thanks for having me.
So, what made you want to be a human book?
Well, actually, Dave DeVoe, the curator, sought me out. Originally under a different title, but after some discussion we decided to go for my current title, which is CODA. Stands for Child of Deaf Adults.
Okay, so you grew up with deaf parents.
Yes.
What was that like?
It's hard for me to say because I don't really have a point of comparison. I don't have a parent who's hearing and one who's deaf. I've just had a deaf childhood experience. I mean, growing up, my first language at home was American Sign Language. So at home, that was the primary way that we communicated, and then outside of the home, it was English. So I lived a life of 2 languages, for sure. Yeah.
Wow, and what's it like sharing your stories with strangers?
It's really great. I'm really excited about it because I get to kind of expel some misconceptions that people have about living deaf and getting rid of the assumptions that it was a challenging thing for me to do. Like, I grew up in a very, very close family. There are 4 girls, I'm the oldest, and we all loved each other a lot. It was never sort of adverse situations. I think that people make assumptions about the fact that my parents are deaf. They assume that there's always going to be a challenge or a disability or some strife there. But I feel like it really was a benefit for me growing up that way because it opened me up to understanding diversity and understanding how to communicate, especially because I got to bridge the gaps between my parents and people who are speaking English entirely.
Yeah, and were there other benefits? I know you mentioned you learned languages quicker as
Yeah,
well?
for sure. I mean, because I have a platform of 2 languages, I understand how to communicate, especially I think with deaf language, it's very physical. So when I meet people, I can read their body language, I think, because I picked up on that growing up with my parents and them picking up on other people's body language. So having that sort of understanding and openness to connecting and communicating with people has allowed me sort of to explore other languages. Like when I was in Quebec, I picked up French really, really quickly. I have it's very easy for me to get into a conversation in French, even though I'm not exactly French, a French speaker.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you
so much.
so
It was a pleasure
much.
to have you.
Yeah, it was
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Cheers.
The Human Library is happening at the Central Branch of the Vancouver Public Library until February 3rd. Visit pushfestival.ca for all the details. A local artist is turning garbage into something beautiful. I had the pleasure of meeting this unique artist earlier in the week.
When I was 3 years old, I was making pictures and selling it to my friends for pennies.
Cu del Rosario creates sculpture, not out of clay or stone, but out of reclaimed or reused materials.
And it's just a lot of working like this and a lot of waiting for things to dry.
Originally from the Philippines, her family immigrated to Canada when she was 8. A trip back to Manila as a teenager inspired her current work.
You see these shanty towns made of garbage that some neighbor just threw away in the street. You had to kind of rethink materials, as something viable and something that can be reused again. So that sort of alchemy, I guess, really resonated with me and really affected the way I worked with materials.
While she does work with some items from dollar stores and hardware stores, the majority of her work is created from what people throw away, and that's found in the usual places.
Yeah, a lot of back alleys. There's so many neighborhoods where you walk from one end of the alley to the other, and there's just tons of stuff that people just discard. I guess like putting these like random items together really kind of create some type of contrived anthropology, I guess. It kind of tells a different story. This glue is really fun. When it dries, it expands.
Her new exhibit is called Stuffed and Hung. She had an interesting inspiration for the show.
And I also wanted to kind of draw parallels between my work and taxidermy, kind of like revering something that's already dead and trying to elevate that.
Stuffed and Hung is on exhibit at Positive Negative Gallery. The show runs until February 2nd. Lynn Johnson in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
An Australian library is making headlines this week for threatening to recategorize books about Lance Armstrong. The disgraced Tour de France champion has admitted to doping, and now some are calling his life more of a fiction than a reality. Here's the sign that one rogue librarian put up at a library in Sydney. It reads, "All non-fiction Lance Armstrong titles will soon be moved to the fiction section." In his book, Armstrong denies doping and boosts his legend as an athlete who overcame cancer. The librarian says the sign is just a joke and she hasn't gotten official permission to move the books.
And on the other side of that controversial interview was Oprah Winfrey. Her conversation with the disgraced cycling star drew 28 million viewers worldwide. She's also filling arenas in Canada. A sold-out crowd will be spending an evening with Oprah on January 24th. She's reminiscing over a quarter century of talk show interviews and encouraging audiences to live their best lives. If you have any questions or comments about our show, visit us online at bcit-broadcast.com or bcitbroadcastnews.ca. I'm Lynn Johnson.
And I'm Francesca Fionda. Thanks for watching. That's BCIT Magazine. We leave you now with the celebration announcing the Times of India Film Awards.